Good morning, everybody. It's Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to continue with Deborah Florian's My West Virginia Horror Story, Part 12. For all the newcomers, Deborah Florian is a targeted female living in West Virginia, and she has been sharing her real estate property mobbing experiences since March. So here we go. This is part 12. As my West Virginia horror story comes closer to the present moment, you might notice the longer lapse of time between the installments I have been submitting to Lorraine. Those involved in the program against me here in Martinsburg are not happy that my experiences now constitute information in the public domain. But I've been waiting for years for this BS to stop, for someone to do the right thing. Well, I'll be turning 67 in less than 3 months, and I am not waiting any longer. And good for you, Deborah. I applaud you because this is a nightmare that you're experiencing, I'm experiencing, and hundreds of thousands of other women and men across the country. And we need to speak out about this and do make it public. There's not enough said about real estate property mobbing. It has been scrubbed from the internet. When Capital Development Enterprises bought 396 to 398 West Race Street on November 29, 2021, life at the rooming house changed literally within hours of the closing. That very afternoon, Lisa, my hater perp, had just left for her shift at Macy's, so I was free to leave my room without being concerned about having a confrontation with someone with ties to the Berkeley County Sheriff's Department. Someone whose version of events would be believed over mine. When I walked into the kitchen, I was startled to see a big guy I had never seen before, busy moving things around. He was apologetic and unerringly polite. It was Roger, the contractor working for Capital Development, who within less than 2 weeks would witness Lisa and Sean's drunken revelry. The deciding moment which led to their eviction. As Roger and I talked, we realized we had met before, 3.5 months earlier on Friday, August 13th. Oh, Friday the 13th! I had been returning to the rooming house after mailing a letter via UPS to the federal Leo law enforcement officer who had been involved in my controversy at law. I mailed him updates. No communication other than my letter sent to him. A one-way street. By then, he had moved to New Orleans. Prior to mailing an update, I would Google him to make sure he was still at the same address. I felt secure in the knowledge that he would still make sure my letters would wind up on the right desk. A desk which is right here in Martinsburg, probably about a mile from where I lived. Without exception, a catastrophic weather event started brewing over New Orleans moments after I posted the letters at UPS. But they always made their way to his front door, and within a day or two it was clear I had hit some nerves. The perps and witnesses whose behavior I had detailed were certainly clearly being questioned. So, there was obviously a swift communication between the federal agent in New Orleans to the officer of the court here in Martinsburg. The way I discovered the identity of this officer of court is something I probably shouldn't share here. Suffice it to say, I was never told. But I never forget a face, and Google is my friend. I hear what you're saying. So, back to Friday, August 13, 2021. As I walked up the shared driveway between the bust busted knuckle, the busted knuckles motorcycle repair shop building in the rooming house, I saw a big sunburned guy painting the wood frames around the windows of the busted knuckles building. It was Roger, the contractor. We exchanged hellos, but as I was desperate to get inside and out of the heat, it was a brief encounter. But I was left with the feeling that something important had happened. But Roger was friendly with the Busted Knuckles crew, who had been recruited into the program against me. Roger was also Martinsburg born and bred, which meant he was part of the informant culture. And during the time he worked on 936 to 938 West Race Street, he would go next door to see the Busted Knuckles boys every day. For a few weeks, my life at the rooming house improved dramatically. I was free to move around the house, as Lisa and Sean were on borrowed time, having been evicted with their last day being December 31. I now felt like part of a tribe helping Roger and his crew paint. I felt useful and appreciated. From the moment we met, Roger had been saying we should start dating, but it never happened. He had been recruited, but was moral enough not to become involved with me during the duration of his contract. His skit shows included taking his prescription pain meds in front of me in a theatrical, contrived manner, just painfully, embarrassingly obvious. The weeks passed and my role as painter's helper was over. The work was done. But Roger would return every so often, as there was always some painting or repair to do, and while I was always glad to see him again, it was clear there was something going on. I felt like he was trying to extract a confession out of me by asking leading questions. I was hoping he was just trying to determine if I had skeletons in my closet before taking things to the next level, but my gut told me otherwise. Ultimately, he told a blatant lie about a woman we both knew, stating she had come on to him, putting him in a bad position. I immediately knew it was BS. This gal would never do that for several excellent reasons. The goal was to kick me off so I would confront her in a fit of the goal was to tick me off so I would confront her in a fit of jealousy. But I saw through the plot and realized just how deeply Roger was involved in the program against me. It taught me to never, ever trust the intentions of any male in Martinsburg again. I'm positive the Busted Knuckles boys had a hand in Roger's recruitment, but they had help from the assistant property manager at Capital Development. Cassidy was in frequent contact with Roger, both on the phone and in person, with regards to whatever job he was working on at the moment, so she had plenty of opportunity to act as his handler. Interestingly enough, Cassidy quit her job not long after I moved out of the rooming house. Surprise, surprise, right? She gave no notice, just a text to Steve Barnes, the owner, to inform him of her resignation. Cassidy ended her employment with Capital Development like a guilty perp sneaking out the back door. Back when Capital Development first bought the property, they installed visible security cameras at the communal areas of the house. One of the levels that's on level 1, that's a good idea, as her obvious presence could present trouble in an environment where strangers were sharing communal areas. But in retrospect, I'm sure my local addicted Leo perps had been given access to the video feed. They were treated to a movie, and I was the star, which explains the immediate onslaught of perp activity as soon as I walked out the back door. By the time I walked across the street to wait for the bus, a perp was pulled into the Valero gas station lot and would just sit there idling very close to me until I boarded the bus. Some of these stalking perps look like somebody's Aunt Ethel. I would think, what the hell is motivating these well-dressed older women to be watching me? But this was the way before I got my formal education on Morons On Patrol. This version was Matrons On Patrol. That's a good one, Deborah. Mops. Morons On Patrol, and now Matrons On Patrol. The Aunt Ethels alarmed me, but they didn't scare me. By early January 2023, a malevolent man in a silver sedan with a dog bone decal on the trunk had replaced Aunt Ethel's. This guy had a purely evil vibe. He was everywhere, on the street, following me as I walked on the sidewalk. I called 911 on January 13, 2023, after he followed me down to the train station. While the dispatcher was sympathetic, I never heard anything back from the Martinsburg Police Department. I saw him a few months later at the hardware store downtown. I hadn't paid attention to the comings and goings of customers, as the owner of the store and I were involved in a conversation. So when this evil perp and I came face to face as I left the store, I was shocked. He told me to, quote unquote, be careful. I saw him soon afterwards as I was boarding a bus downtown. He rushed towards me, sheer hatred on his ugly face. He had come out of nowhere. Back in the summer of 2021, I had submitted an application for rent control apartments in the north end, quote-unquote, of Martinsburg. Far enough away from downtown, so I thought, to rid myself of this trouble. There was a waiting list, so I knew it would take a while, but I always had it in the back of my mind that once I moved there, I would leave the surveillance and harassment behind. Yeah, right. To be continued. Well, Deborah, thank you for documenting this. Well, if you pissed off the local people there, I would imagine that this installment is going to piss them off just a little bit more. Matrons on Patrol. Yeah, we've got them here on Jackson County, Kentucky, too. The Matrons on Patrol. That's a good one. But this evil creep telling you to be careful? I mean, how threatening is that for a big, ugly, fat guy, evil perp to come up to you in a store and tell you that? He's definitely evil. But that's okay, because we're exposing it right here. Right here, Alternative Homesteading. Please leave a comment down below. And give a thumbs up. Share. We need to share these testimony stories. And once again, this is my West Virginia horror story by Deborah Florian, part 12. Signing off for now.